Okay, good afternoon. And I'd like to call the meeting to order with the approval of the agenda. We have two addendum items. One is a list of supporting letters for the item 7D, which you received in your addendum, and the other is a motion in business number E from myself. So with those changes, could I have an approval of the agenda? All in favor? Okay, thank you, that's carried. Before we begin this meeting, we wish to pay respect to the First Nations, past and present, and acknowledge the important role First Nations people continue to play within our community. I also want to deliver some very, very sad news. Seguin Township shares in the immense sorrow of the loss of Robert Caro, head of Rosso Lake College, who was struck and killed this morning while jogging on Highway 141. Our hearts and prayers are with his family, his school, and the entire community. Rosso Lake College is taking care of each other and will be here for the greater Rosso Lake College community of alumni, parents, and friends. Everyone in the township will miss Robert and his zest for life. We will keep you posted as further details are available, but it is a very, very sad day in Seguin. And now for a little bit of better news, I would like take this opportunity to welcome Jason Inwood, who has joined us today as our new CAO. Jason joins us from Innisfil, where he was operations manager, and operations manager covered a lot of territory in Innisfil. The search was long, the search was thorough, and council was unanimous that Jason was the right choice for the township. So with that introduction, I'm going to ask Jason to introduce himself a little bit before we actually begin the council meeting.
Thank you, Your Worship, and it's a pleasure to see all of the members of council once again, and I must say it's hard to believe that this journey has finally got me here in the town office, and of course, day one, why not throw a council meeting into it? You know, I share in the excitement. There's some great potential that I see for this community with some of the initiatives such as the Wellness Center and Pool, the airport. I'm inspired by the responsible growth that has taken place, and of course the vision of the strategic plan. And I must say that in my first day I spent most of my day just meeting staff, meeting the great people that work here, and by all accounts we have an excellent team delivering on the community's expectations, delivering those core services that allow our residents and stakeholders the ability to enjoy everything that Seguin has to offer. And I also want to share that coming to Seguin came with, you know, multiple questions that we had to ask ourselves, and when I say ourselves, I'm talking about my wife and my children as we prepare to move here permanently. But I must say that the quality of life, the future-focused vision are some of those key initiatives and key words that really drove us to say, yes, this is the place for us. And one really important message that I must share with everybody, including the residents and ratepayers, is that when I met with council in the recruitment process, I heard about the possibilities, and what I didn't hear a whole lot about was the problems. And I can respect the fact that we all have problems. There's lots of them out there, but when we're thinking about the future and what can be, talking about possibilities is very, very exciting for me as your new CAO, and I look forward to getting to meet with everybody again in the very near future, including all of our staff and stakeholders around the community. So with that, I thank you for the opportunity to be here, and I'm excited and thrilled to be a part of the team.
Welcome. I call for now a disclosure of any pecuniary interest or general nature thereof. Councillor Fellner?
Yes, I wish to declare I may have a conflict of interest, pecuniary interest, related to the following matter. Council meeting, agenda item 5 B, accounts B, payment to Wayne Hall Construction as the party is my employer. Thank you.
Thank you. And now I've got some motions related to past minutes. So I have a motion that the Council of the Corporation of the Township of Seguin does hereby adopt the minutes of the special and closed session meetings of Council held October 13th, 2020 as circulated. Could I have a motion from Councillor Moffat?
I so move.
And seconded from Councillor Cole.
I'll second that.
Thank you. All in favor? Thank you. That's carried. And I have a motion that the Council of the Corporation of the Township of Seguin does hereby adopt the minutes of the regular and closed session meetings of Council held October 19th, 2020 as circulated. Could I have a motion from Councillor Fellner?
So moved.
Thank you. And seconded by Councillor Osborne.
Seconded, Mayor.
All in favor? Thank you. And I have a motion that Council of the Corporation of the Township of Seguin does hereby approve the accounts in the amount of $501,381.55. Could I have a motion from Councillor Collins?
Yes, Mayor, I so move that motion.
Thank you. And seconded by Councillor Finson.
I second that.
Thank you. All in favor? Thank you. And I have a motion that Council of the Corporation of the Township of Seguin does hereby approve the accounts in the amount of $25,033.17. Could I have a motion from Councillor Moffat?
I so move, Mayor.
Thank you. And seconded by Councillor Cole.
I'll second that.
All in favor? Thank you. Okay, we have 3 delegations, the first of which is Jackie Wareham from Contact North. So I will ask Jackie to turn her screen on. As all the delegations know, they have 10 minutes to present and an opportunity for councillors to ask them questions. So welcome, Jackie.
Mayor, would it be possible to have a PowerPoint presentation to share, please?
Yep, our clerk is just allowing screen share. It should be on.
Okay. It says host disabled participant screen sharing.
You all have your presentation in our agenda package. Can you screen share now? You should be able to.
Unfortunately not, it's still not allowing me.
Okay, well, we do have your entire presentation starting with the blue slide, online learning in your community.
Mm-hmm. I had shortened up the PowerPoint quite a bit from what you said.
Join the meeting.
Would it be possible for another participant to go first while we get this technical thing worked out?
Sure. Somebody had that issue last time, and remember we didn't have a problem. So.
Yeah. Nick, do you need
Yes.
to screen share?
Yes, I do, but I can do that. It's successful elsewhere. Anyway, I hope it is here too. So, yeah, mine is saying host disabled participant screen sharing too, but I'll try again. No.
Okay, the clerk is trying to rectify the issue.
In my experience on these calls, it frequently takes a minute or two longer than what you see for it to be available to others. And likewise, when I share, I found the same thing happening, is that I could see it being shared, but others can't. But if we give it a minute, probably it'll work. There we go.
You can share now?
I can share now.
We'll jump to item 6B, which is on page 73 of our agenda package. And we'll turn it over to you, Nick.
Okay. Can
Go ahead.
you all see? Okay,
Yep.
I've got the presentation running at my end, but again, can you see it at your end?
We have
Yes,
it.
I can. Yep.
Okay, good. Okay, so just here, I'm just going to go a page down. Come on. There we go. Okay, so I hope you can see a slide that's titled as Overview.
Mhm.
It's
Yep,
page 2 in the package. Okay. No, you can't, or yes, you can?
Yes, you can. You can see
Okay,
what-
okay, good. Okay, good. Because if we get hung up anywhere along the way, please just stop me so that I don't blather on with things that you can't see. First of all, thank you for allowing us to come and present kind of an update of where we're at. I know that we've done this now a few times in the last year and a half, and hopefully this will be a meaningful update. We've done 2 of these to other municipalities locally in the last week, and we've got another 4 in the next week and another 3 or 4 following that. So from the experience of doing it with other councils, I decided to simply put this slide together, which I know is very busy. I don't expect you necessarily to read it. It's here so that if you want to, you can. But and this slide is about the only one that I will spend any significant time on. The others are simply here for information purposes, and they support what I'm trying to say.
Sherback, Planscape.
Join the meeting.
Okay, so starting at the very top, I mean, it's important to note, and it was one of our board members that brought this up to me, was that we manage a trail system that is longer than the distance from Parry Sound to Barrie, which is quite remarkable in and of itself. And this is managed by or accomplished by 1 employee only, and as we've said, a couple of dozen of intermittent volunteers. Our basic problem is that we find ourselves basically being unable to sustain the trail, especially in a year with COVID, which impacted us, and I'll talk to that very briefly later. But we need substantial funding to meet the needs of our trail, of the plant, for our users, and in particular for municipal expectations like your own. My view is that we need to expand our staffing. When we first started in and around 2001, there was a total of 3 staff, not that they were all full-time, but there was a total of 3 staff that were involved, that were employed and not volunteers, that did things. And since then, it kind of fell away. I wasn't involved in that stage. I can't really say why, but I would imagine that cost savings was one of the things. But as with any organization, when you shortchange staffing, you inevitably find that there's a price to be paid, and a lot of the things that we need to be able to do, we simply don't have the people to do it, and that has a negative impact. So that I've characterized those staffing needs as administrative activities, and I've listed some of them here. But certainly there's a great need for doing that, and having just 1 employee who has to be the jack of all trades simply doesn't work for us anymore. And I think we need to take the next step and find a way to get some more staff that hopefully will build this to make this sustainable for all parties that are interested. Additionally, and this came up with our call last week with Huntsville, they asked me to provide a list of what I'm calling here the maintenance projects, so that they understand what's involved and how big they are and how much they cost. And again, while we could produce a list probably overnight to do that, it is one of the side jobs that Peter Searle, our general manager, does. And frankly, I think we need to find some way to get a dedicated resource on this. We have talked about this at a very high level with our board, and we have a board meeting coming this Thursday. I plan to talk about it in much greater detail and seek their input and advice and see if we can move forward with that. But I think those 2 things alone would make more difference than perhaps an awful lot of the other things that we do. The next bullet point I have here is just saying that the bulk of our labor and or of our efforts are provided by unpaid volunteers. Obviously, having only 1 employee means that others have to step in and do work. And we do have probably at least a couple of dozen of volunteers that do intermittent work with us. And that's critical for us. But like I said, it requires a different level of staffing in order for us to move forward. I know you know this particularly well in Seguin, but I mean, we have over 230 kilometers of trail from Killbear to Algonquin, but the major portion of that usage is between Highway 400 and Highway 11, and it's an extremely busy trail. It's the most used snowmobile trail in Ontario. I don't know if it was somebody at our last meeting with your council that came up, but I've now heard it in a number of different places, and I believe it. It's a feeder trail for snowmobiles for a great portion of Ontario, and obviously there's a lot of people that come through the Seguin Trail to get to others, and that's a very important factor. It's obviously a major tourist attraction that brings people into our communities. Again, we have some stuff later in here just to say that that it brings in funds into our communities is the simplest way of saying it. Some things that I think your council knows better than others, simply because you're closer to it and we've met with you perhaps more often than anybody else, is that we don't receive any funding at all. This was quite a shock to some other councils from the province or from the federal government. I put an exception in there. We did receive a CEBA loan back at the beginning of COVID last April. But I mean, technically it's a loan, so I don't know that it's really funding, and we've held it aside to be safe anyhow. But we have some funding from townships, including Seguin in a normal year, and Parry Sound, and some from McMurch Monteith. But obviously we haven't received the Seguin Township donation to this point. We do receive other donations in previous years, and we also raise money through an annual ATV rally, although we did not this year because of COVID. Our major source of revenue, essentially all of our revenue in this year, came from ATV trail pass sales. We sold about $80,000, and again, we have some more details later as to how that compares to previous years. We had expected to get 95,000, but COVID certainly had a major impact on that at the beginning of our year. And I acknowledge and appreciate that we get capital funding for major bridge replacements from the OFSC through District 10 and District 7. And that's obviously a major thing for us, but it pretty much boils down to doing bridge replacements before the snowmobile season. Again, some other background here. I know, I'm pretty sure that everybody on your council right now has heard this, and this slide is materially unchanged from previous ones that we've used with you. Other than we've added the words here about being the tourism jewel of the region, because it is such a major thing, and we became aware through COVID that it was one of the few activities that was promoted in our region, because it's essentially safe from a COVID perspective. If I go too fast, by the way, please stop me and I can go slower or go back. But in terms of, I won't read these in detail, the COVID-19 impacts, we basically didn't open the trail until June the 6th after many discussions with the local health unit. And we had several phone calls and sometimes more than one in a week just to make sure that we were on side for various things. That obviously had a major impact on us, somewhere around $15,000 that we didn't get in sales. And you know, it hurts, and we didn't have a rally. That's about $10,000 for us as well. We did apply for the wage subsidy, and that number I have here, 10,000, is a little bit low. We just received another $1,700, so roughly $12,000 to date. We did apply for the CEBA loan, as I mentioned on the last slide, a $40,000 loan, and we were approved, and we received those funds. And originally, because of information from the health unit, we limited our trail pass sales to local users only, being people that reside in our federal riding, because that had a COVID impact as well. Anyway, I said I wasn't going to read it, and here I am reading it. But the good news was that we were able to open, albeit late.
Okay, thank you. Do you mind telling us, Nick, which other municipalities you presented to?
Yes, so far we presented to McDougall and to Huntsville. Later we have, well, we have yourselves today, we have Parry Sound tomorrow, we have Parry Township the day after that, and we have McKellar next Tuesday, if I'm right. We're working with other municipalities to present in a total of 11 of them. Whether or not all of them are agreeable, I don't know yet, but I mean, certainly the, what would that be? 7 are for sure and will be held by next week at this time, so.
And how much
Okay,
funding do you get from the other municipalities other than Seguin?
Well, from Perry Sound, we received $6,000 this year in early October, which is unfortunate. It's after our fiscal year end, which is September the 30th, but we did receive the money, and obviously it matters a great deal. We have received, I guess, donations in kind is the right way to say it, from McMurch as well. They have provided both fill for the trail to fill in some of our holes, our water holes, as well as some equipment to spread it and things. And that's been protracted now on at least 3 or 4 occasions. They have done that for us. So not so much in terms of cash, but in terms of materials. So, anything else?
Thank you. We have a question from Councillor Osborne.
Okay.
Thank you, Mayor. Good afternoon, Nick.
Hi.
Your park-to-park sales is good news. You're not at your goal, but
No.
Higher than in 19, I see.
Yeah.
Two questions.
Sure.
On your audit, this is the first year you've been actually audited by a professional accountant, or?
Well, I know Darrell will probably disagree with me, but I mean, we were audited by an auditor, although I gather his qualifications are not up to the current standard. We have produced what we believe was audited financial statements for every year, certainly for about the last 10 that I'm aware of. I have copies of them. So whether or not they meet a current standard, that was the debate last year. And since then, we did proceed. We've hired a new auditor and
well, yes,
right now, so.
Gingrich and Harris are certainly competent auditors. When do you expect, you mentioned your year end is September 30th of this year. When do you expect that audit to be complete, Nick?
Honestly, I haven't had a person-to-person chat with Brandy. Well, not in the last week anyhow. I was exchanging information with her today just through emails. I don't really know and can't really comment. I mean, she told me she was going to work with our bookkeeper based out of Bracebridge, I think, anyhow. And I connected the two of them, and I believe that they've been exchanging information, and I asked them to, copy me or involve me wherever they thought it was appropriate. So they haven't between the two of them, but I know they're working on it, and I do receive requests and other information from Brandy, including one that I responded to today. So.
Okay, thank you. One other question. You mentioned that you don't get any provincial funding. Which really surprises myself and I guess a lot of other people. Is there no way of accessing funds through District 6 tourism out of Bracebridge? I forget what they call it. It's the District 6 tourism sector, and it is specifically for tourism in the north. Have you ever applied to them for funding?
Well, I can't really argue. I can't answer as to ever. I can tell you that in the last 2 or 3 years, we have not. And I have no experience with that type of thing. One of the purposes to get additional staffing would be to get an admin person that could indeed follow those things up. We are partnered with the Eastern Ontario Trails Association, which operates about 1,700 kilometers of trails down and around Eastern Ontario. They are presently and have been quite successful at obtaining grants and the like from government organizations, the province particularly. My goal would be that if we can get the staff in place, that we could go down and spend time with them, figure out how they're doing it, and copy that for ourselves.
Okay, so other trail systems do get funding.
Well, at least EOTA does, yes.
Right. Okay. So yeah, I think that's pretty important that someone needs to be appointed to research that and see what funds are available, because other tourism operations get funded through that District 6.
Sure.
Okay, thank you. That's all I had.
Okay.
I believe that the District 6 name is Explorer's Edge, Nick.
That's right. That's it. Explorer's Edge.
Okay, yes. I am familiar with Explorer's Edge and in particular, my brother has a long history with them. I know that.
I'm
Okay,
just gonna, thank you very much for your presentation. We know
Okay,
your finances are tight. Councillor Fellner, as our council rep on Park to Park, do you have anything to add?
No, I think I got terrible echo here. I think Nick is really, kind of hit home, with what the root cause here is, you know, this is a big system and it takes money to look after it properly. And, you know, to depend on permit sales for ATVs is just isn't gonna cut it. You know, there's no way they can maintain it to the level of expectation, I guess, you know, as a multi-use trail. So, as well in my consultation with our clerk as to, you know, how we could, you know, help them with the administrative affairs.
Sure.
It's pretty evident that even if we put everything current without staff to maintain it, it isn't really sustainable. So I think I think Nick's really got to the two root things that need to be addressed. One is stable funding and the other is sufficient staff. The two of them go hand in hand, obviously.
Very clearly. The other thing, though, that we found relative to McMurch was that their donations in kind, as I called them, in terms of material and equipment and equipment operators, was very valuable to us as well, because inevitably a lot of times we pay cash for contractors to do things that we can't manage ourselves. But if the township is able to do some of that for us, then that's just as valuable as cash. So I mention it here simply because I think there is an opportunity perhaps with other townships to donate things that way to us. But that's not my decision, obviously. It's just, it's kind of a learning that I got from what McMurch did this year.
Okay, well,
Have we got something in the office there that's causing this echo? It's pretty bad.
you're getting an echo.
Sorry, guys.
Getting an echo, we're okay in the council.
We're-
Everybody
all of
getting
us-
an echo?
I think
Yes, we are.
We are getting echoes bad. I
Okay,
think we
let
got
us,
something you need to shut off maybe in there. It's very difficult to listen to.
It is. It was for me, or it is for me too, so.
Yes.
okay, well, I think what the clerk has suggested is we try and get through the delegates, because some of them have signed in, and then we'll
Okay.
maybe sign on and off again, we'll try, but keep us posted, because we're hearing everything well.
I'm not hearing.
I hear you without an echo.
Okay, so is this a request to line?
Everyone else is.
Yeah, so I just want to make sure I completely understand, Nick. I appreciate your presentation. We know that Seguin Council has withheld our $16,000 this year, waiting for up-to-date governance and audited statements. Are you making a request for that money now?
Well, I mean, here at our last call, we talked about this and asked about assistance, or sorry, perhaps it was our last board meeting when we were talking to Councillor Fellner. We really need some assistance in order to update our governance. I think the audit issues are essentially resolved, and you know, the audit will be produced at such a time as it's done. And I don't think it'll be a long time, but neither do I know what date. But in terms of governance, we definitely need some expertise to help us to update and consolidate a variety of governance documents.
Okay. Can I suggest that, if you said you had a board meeting this Thursday, that Councillor Fellner work with you to detail what request is coming to council, both in 2020, which is now, and in our 2021 budget?
Okay, no, absolutely.
Okay, thank you. Thank you very much for
Okay.
your presentation, and I think,
Okay.
I hope all the counselors do go through all the slides, because they are informative. And I'll go
Okay.
back to Jackie now. If you can end your screen sharing there.
Yeah, I'm just trying to right now.
And then Jackie, can you possibly see?
Yes, I'm just waiting for the,
Come on, why won't it let me?
just waiting for Nick to finish sharing, and then I should be able to get on.
Okay, so I'm stopping sharing right now, so hopefully,
Yeah, we can no longer see, Nick's slides.
good. And you probably don't want to see me either.
No, and it's probably, yeah. And as each delegate signs off, we hope we might fix the echo. But if not, we'll look at it. So, over to you, Jackie, to take us through your presentation and tell us about Contact North.
Thank you very much. Madam Mayor and Council, thank you for the opportunity to speak with you today about how Contact North helps people access training and education so they can achieve their educational, employment, and personal goals without having to leave their community. During the presentation, I invite you to think about people you know who could benefit from our services. I'll begin with a short story. A couple of years ago, somebody came into our online learning center in Parry Sound, and she was actively looking for work. She had a good resume and cover letter, but she wasn't getting any calls for interviews. Contact North helped her to find a free online course to beef up her resume and helped her to register for it. They checked in with her to see how her course was going, and they encouraged her to continue when life got busy. And when she finished the course, Contact North was there to help celebrate her achievement. And shortly after, she found a great job. So if you haven't already guessed, that job seeker was myself, and the help and encouragement that I received from Contact North helped me to achieve my employment goals. At Contact North, we know that in small communities, online courses and programs are often the only option that's available. And so that's why we support people in rural and remote Ontario to access online education and training at all levels: post-secondary, apprenticeship, high school, upgrading, literacy and basic skills, and even general interest. So how do we deliver on our mission? You know, online learning sounds great, but how many people do we know who don't have access to high-speed internet, or do not have a computer, or do not have the computer skills to study online? Contact North's Online Learning Center has computer stations, internet, and friendly, knowledgeable staff, and all of that's free. You know, with online learning, there's definitely a technical learning curve involved, and we are here to assist. Some online learners find that it's too noisy at home, or there are too many distractions. Some like the accountability and the routine of a real classroom to do their virtual courses. Our center is located inside Canadore College in Parry Sound, and we're now open Monday to Friday from 9 to 4 by appointment only, with safety protocols in place to keep us all healthy. You can make an appointment to discuss your course options or to do your coursework. We're also meeting clients by phone, email, Zoom, and Facebook inbox. So what's out there for you? Have you ever searched the web to see if a particular program is offered online? If you have, you know it can be confusing and overwhelming to wade through the jungle of search results. We can help you cut through the static and find out what's on offer. We know about free and paid programs. And we field inquiries every week, so we're always looking for new options for our clients. You can also learn about new and exciting programs by signing up for our monthly email updates with courses to tempt your inner learner. And we post program information on our Facebook and Instagram pages. For example, did you know that you can get your high school diploma or equivalent online for free? It's also free to do academic upgrading to get prerequisites for a post-secondary program. Our website, studyonline.ca, has course and program information, and you can also sign up for our services through the online contact form. So you'd love to go back to school, but how are you going to pay for it? At Contact North, we can help you with your OSAP application and help you to find other financial assistance, such as bursaries for part-time programs, First Nations resources like Gestajig and Inspire, and government programs like Second Career and the Canada-Ontario Job Grant. They say that picking your program is the most difficult part of the process, but registering can also be a challenge. Sometimes you feel like you need to have a diploma or a degree just to figure out the application form. So we can help you walk through the whole process and help you find the answers to all your questions. And if you need a proctor for your exams, you can book our online learning center and we'll invigilate them. So has anybody here ever started an online course only to abandon it after a few lessons? I know if I finished all the courses I started, I would be a whole lot smarter than I am. Online learning can be really isolating, and if you run into a block, it's easy to just give up. So that's why we check in regularly to see how your courses are going and celebrate the wins along the way. We are your educational partner. You can always turn to us for encouragement and inspiration. Aside from educational goals, many of our clients are actively looking for work. There are thousands of free courses to help you land your dream job. Everything from computer applications like Excel and Word to workplace skills like how to deal with conflict in the workplace. In today's ever-changing work environment, employers are looking for workers who know how to learn. And free courses with a certificate of completion can make your application really stand out. But online learning isn't just about going back to school or getting a job. Have you ever wanted to learn to play the guitar or speak Japanese or learn more about Indigenous culture? Would you like to take a creative writing class or learn how to fish or learn to meditate? Lifelong learning is fun, and there are free courses for just about everyone. In closing, I'd like to share 3 quick stories. One recent client came to the center every day last year to do her coursework because there were too many distractions with her young family at home. She graduated from her early childhood education program this spring, and now she has a job in the school system. Another client used the free internet and computers at the center every day for the first year of her social service worker program online because she didn't have high-speed internet at home. In her second year, she was able to connect from home, and she only came into the center to write her exams. She graduated in 2019, and she's now thinking about going on to university. Another client graduated with her high school diploma. She wasn't sure she could do it, but with our help and help from other community agencies, she achieved her goal and now works part-time at the West Perry Sound Health Center. We have seen over and over again the difference that education can make in people's lives. Now that you know a little bit more about Contact North, I hope you'll let others in your professional and personal circles know. And I hope this presentation has sparked some ideas for you. If you're looking for any training for council or staff in future, I encourage you to let me know so we can be your education and training partner. You can reach me by emailing perrysound@contactnorth.ca.
Thank you very much.
Thank you again. Oh, okay.
Thank you very much. It was very informative. Just one question. How are you funded?
We are funded by the province of Ontario.
Okay, great.
So we're not here asking for any funding. I'm just here to inform you about our services.
Well, it's great to know, because honestly, I didn't know you existed, so it's been very useful. Are there any questions from councillors? Nope. I saw some councillors writing down numbers and contact information, so hopefully you will hear from us and we will pass the information on. But
thank you very much. I look forward to hearing from you.
Okay, thank you. How's the echo, people?
Terrible.
Still bad.
It's bad still?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right.
Like even with me.
Okay,
Yes.
we're gonna turn off the phone and turn it right back on again. So stay tuned, okay?
Okay.
This worked once before.
Seguin Council Chambers?
Join the meeting.
Okay, let's see if that's any improved. It's
That's-
better, Daryl? Good, okay.
Test 1, 2.
Yep.
Yeah, that's good. Yeah, it's really good.
Sounds better.
Okay, Michael Ann McDonald, I think you are on the call.
She's not yet. She's in the waiting room.
Oh, she's coming in the meeting
No,
room.
we have several phone numbers in the waiting room that I have no idea who they are.
Oh, yeah.
So we can let Michael Ann in. I don't know if those other phone numbers, I think some are Mr. Chapnick, but I don't know about the date.
Can you tell which one's Michael Ann McDonald?
Yeah, he's not a phone number.
Oh, okay. Oh, hello. Ms. McDonald?
Hello,
thank
Mary.
you very much. Thank you very much for joining us. You have a delegation about the clearing of trees on the property owned by the Tate, and you have 10 minutes to present.
I don't think it will take that long, Madam Mayor. When I asked to delegate, I had not seen the site plan agreement. It was sent to me at 3:43 this afternoon. I provided it to the Tates, and they don't have any difficulty with it. The problem was there are on the property now dead trees and deadfall, and they had been told by Mr. Stone to not remove it pending the site plan being finalized. But I believe it's covered now by section 6.2 that says that they have the obligation to remove debris, refuse, and discarded materials. So the dead wood that's there, this site plan gives them permission to do so. There's also a danger tree on one side of the property threatening the neighbors' structures. And they'll need to take that down, but I believe that can be done with Mr. Stone's approval because clearly it's a dangerous tree that's threatening the neighbor's structure. So other than that, this site plan agreement, when we finally saw it today, it adds a $1,500 security deposit, and my clients have no problem with that. And a requirement that the vegetation be proved to have survived a year after it's planted, and they have no problem with that. They're happy to cooperate.
Okay, that's great. If there's any question about the danger tree, we can have staff go out and look at it, if the Tates invite that. If there's any question about it, either bylaw or Mr. Stone can say, yes, it's dangerous, and go ahead. But if
Yeah, they just want to make sure they're in compliance entirely, so.
Okay, that's great. Well, I have a motion here to approve the site plan, so I'll read the motion and then ask for some movers. That bylaw number 2020-116, being a bylaw to authorize the execution of a site plan agreement between the Corporation of the Township of Seguin and Stephen and Kathy Tate, property roll number 4903-040-06812-00000, application number S 2020-0003-C, is hereby deemed to have been read a first, second, and third time and passed by council. Could I have a motion from Councillor Osborne?
So moved.
Thank you. And seconded from Councillor Coles?
I'll second that.
Thank you. All in favor? Is there any discussion? No discussion, all in favor, that's carried. Okay, that was fast. We don't have delegates that go that quickly usually. So thank you very much for going through the site plan agreement, and we wish the Tates well in the development of their property.
Thank you very much, if I might be excused.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, bye-bye.
Bye-bye. How's the sound doing? Are we better?
Yes.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Yeah, it's 100% better.
Okay, well, we live and learn with our technology here. Okay, we move into item 7, staff reports, and I will turn it over to, I have to receive them first, do I? Sorry, I'm short a piece of paper. I need the clerk to tell me what to do first. Sorry, I have a motion. The Council of the Corporation of the Township of Seguin does hereby receive the staff reports as presented on the agenda and addendum for the November 2nd, 2020 meeting of Council. That's all I need to read. Okay. Could I have a motion from Councillor Collins?
Yes, Mayor.
Thank you. And seconded by Councillor Finson?
I second that.
Thank you. All in favor of receiving staff reports? Thank you. Now I will turn it over to the full-time treasurer.
Who's that?
There we go. So this is your financial update up till October 22nd. We did receive some good financial news. Our health unit levy has dropped by $10,000 because the health unit received some COVID-19 mitigation funding. And we also had a second lift of the scrap metal from the landfill site, which brought in an extra $23,000. For 2021, I'm not sure if you've seen it, but we did get our OMPF allocation, and it has also gone up approximately $5,100 compared to 2020. So the capital programs are winding down. We expect that they will be on budget. We do have some that will be carrying forward to next year, and we should be able to start projecting those at the end of November. We've spent to date $201,000 out of our $609,000 for the COVID-19 funding. There were a couple projects that we were looking at that we did bring to your attention when we first got that funding, and staff are still getting information on that. Once we have that information, we'll bring that to council for approval.
Overall, a good report. Looks like we're spending on track, most of us. Are there any, I see a question from Councillor Moffat.
Yes, thank you, Mayor. And it's not really a question to Michelle. It's more a question of we're projecting another surplus of north of 100,000. And I'm just want to, now that we are in November, we should start to think about what we want to do with it. And maybe there's an opportunity in an upcoming meeting that we could put this back on the table as we move forward to the end of December, so that we have some agreement as to what we should be doing with the surplus, given that most people have had a hard 2020 due to a number of reasons. And as we talked about when we made some concessions earlier, we were concerned about hitting another, surplus. So I'd like to see if we can have a discussion on that as we move closer to the end of the year, Mayor.
Okay, Michelle, how would that discussion best occur?
We actually have some serious expenditure pressures next year that we'll probably have to use our reserves for. So sometime in November, beginning of December, we can bring a report to council with how those things can be funded, which will affect what we do with our reserves at the end of the year. So.
No, that would be good. It's just so that we can at least start to plan for it before we get to the end of the year and have some sort of runway. Thank you very much.
Okay, so she did say November. I hate to say this, it's November today, so maybe the next meeting we could put it on the agenda just to have a discussion about it. But overall, I think it's a great report. I'm getting used to reading them and checking off as the months go by, so thank you for all the management you're doing on controls. I see no further questions, so is it Steve we're going to have for the update on building permits? Director Stone, can you take us through item B?
Thank you, Madam Mayor, rest of council. This is the third installment in the quarterly reports from the building department. So you've seen similar pictures of how the building department's doing from a revenue permit standpoint. As was the case the last time we reported, the permits aren't as many as there were this time last year, but you'll notice that the revenue is higher. We've been experiencing a fair bit of building with regards to some very large cottages and dwellings. So that's reflected in the report. Happy to answer questions.
Are there any questions from council? Okay, well, thank you very much. Some of the plans I've seen are hard to describe as cottages.
Yeah, some of the big drawings that we process, you need a forklift to move them around the office at times.
Yeah, they're huge.
Yeah.
And to call them a cottage or even a second home is an understatement. Many of them are castles.
Right.
Yeah, Councillor Fellner, you have your hand up?
Yes, I do. I have my little blue hand up too.
Yeah,
Steve,
okay. Yep.
Steve, how are we making out with timely processing of permits? I got a email the other day from a guy that was thinking that his dock permit was taking too long.
Yeah, so we're a bit behind with regards to that. Councillor Coles actually was asking about a permit application, and there's 8 unprocessed applications in the queue. And talking to Chris Busby this afternoon, he anticipates that that'll be till next Friday by the time they can get through those 8 permits. We're processing plans exam about 2 permits a day, so we're hoping we'll go through that queue basically by the end of the week. So, but we're about 4 weeks behind. Where we normally would take 2 weeks, we're about 4 to 5 weeks behind now. So,
So by the end of the week, just so I'm clear here, so by the end of the week, we'll be caught up, you think, Steve? or-
We're hoping to go through the 8 that are in the queue by the end of Friday, yes. So,
Oh, okay. Is there any more like Pat? Is there any more
there may,
in the queue?
well, there's certainly a few sitting on the counter waiting to be opened. So
Oh,
probably
I
three or four that way that have just come in, but they haven't made it through the processing and assigning a number and that sort of thing. So,
Okay, thank you.
okay.
So, yeah, I do know that they think they're gonna be caught up by Friday, and then a whole bunch more arrive. So
Mhm.
that goes into the queue. So Councillor Moffat.
Sure, I just want a little clarification, Steve. We are 4 to 5 weeks behind in processing, but normally we're 2 weeks behind in processing?
No, 2 weeks,
did I-
the legislative requirement is 2 weeks. So
Okay.
it's, we're about, if you want to look at it, we're about 3 weeks behind.
So
The
4 to
two-
5 in total?
Yeah.
In terms of when you want it to, when it goes in versus when you're done? It
Yes.
should take 2 weeks and it's
Yeah.
taking between 4 and 5 weeks?
Yeah.
Okay,
And then
all right.
that number's come down quite a bit over the last month, so.
Okay, no, thank you. I thought we were adding 4 or 5 to 2, not.
No, sorry.
Okay, thank you.
And I would like to move on to the next one, which is to call on Don Hood to talk. You will recall that a couple meetings ago, or maybe it was last meeting, we had the resident that was complaining about noise. So Don, I think your report's pretty comprehensive and you've done some research, but take us through what you would like as the next step.
Thank you, Madam Mayor, and through you to Council. Just to add what I put in writing, first of all, just to clarify, the noise bylaw as it stands, before we address the issue of generators, is being reviewed. We have discussed set fines. And so over the next few weeks, we will bring back to Council the noise portion of the bylaw that is fairly old, and there's been a lot of changes that we need to bring into effect, and then add some set fines. The concern about the generator, I just wanted to make sure, and I felt it was important to make sure the numbers that we were given were accurate, and then come up with a solution that works for all parties. In looking at Generac themselves and their publications that they put out for data sheets, it appeared to me that what they were claiming, which is an EPA standard they have to meet, was significantly less than what was in the report. So I think it's important at this point, before we go forward, to make sure the numbers that we're looking at are accurate. I think Council will recall we definitely have had experience in the past of trying to measure decibels, and it becomes a bit of a challenge at times. But I think what we do have to ensure is that whatever we're doing, it's being done by someone that is recognized as an expert in that area. So that would be my recommendation. As far as the generator is concerned, we have to define standby generator. We need to define what is an actual power source, sustainable power source. A generator, that's all they have. In speaking with our prosecutor this week, I sort of ran the scenario by him. And the other thing I think we have to be aware of here potentially is, is this possibly an issue where we need to encourage neighbors to work together to solve this problem? So there's several things that going forward on the generator side, hopefully we can come back with accurate numbers, and then come up with some solutions for both parties.
Thank you. Are there any questions? Councillor Cole.
Yes, Don, thanks for that. And I I do have a Generac generator, and it's an older version. It was put in about 2008, I guess. The new Generac generators are much quieter, fully run than the old ones. Mine is noisy. My neighbor has a brand new one, and it's very quiet, which is probably what the decibel levels in this report reflects. I just wanted to make sure you understood that. And there is a difference, a distinct difference between the new and the old ones. So the age of the age of the one in question may be part of the issue.
Well, I know the residence that it's supporting is in fact still not completed. The other issue too is Generac themselves recommend life expectancy is approximately 5,000 hours because it is a standby.
Yeah.
And secondly, the oil in the generator recommendation would have to be changed every 72 hours. So if you're running a generator almost 24/7, I did attend the property last week, and there were people there on the property, but the generator was not running. So obviously their solar system, it was in full view, must be working to some degree. But using a standby generator as a full source of power, Generac told me it'll blow up sooner than later. And that could be a part of the challenge too with noise. If it's not running correctly, the noise level goes up.
Yeah. Thanks.
Thank you. Councillor Osborne.
Thank you, Mayor. Don, you mentioned in your conclusion that one of the things to do is define standby generators separate from construction and allow the use from midnight to from 2300 hours to 7 the next day, only when a power interruption is confirmed. So he's suggesting that generators shouldn't be used on a regular basis unless it's for a power interruption from a utility? Like where do we?
Not necessarily. Yeah, not necessarily, Councillor. If somebody, in this particular case, for reasons that, you know, they've created a challenge amongst neighbors, then what's happened is they've refused to cooperate and work together. To me, that's something that we could definitely encourage them to work together to solve this issue. But basically, if a standby generator, if power goes out at 2 in the morning, people have to have the ability not to go against the bylaw and have the generator come on. That's basically what I'm saying there, that a standby between 11 and 7 shouldn't be run unless it's a Hydro 1 interruption. And the same between 11 and 7. And then define, because we don't have a definition. All we have right now in our bylaws is a definition for a generator used for construction.
Right. Okay, so in your comment about the neighbors, I've had a little bit of information thrown at me. I understand that originally this person wanted to have hydro, tried to cut through for Barry, got in conflict with neighbors, therefore he couldn't do what he wanted to do. That's what you're suggesting, that you bring these neighbors together and arrive at some sort of settlement where he can in fact have hydro as a primary source, right?
That would be one, I believe, at least an opportunity to get to try to be, you know, a mediator, whatever the term we want to use, to try to encourage them that there is a solution.
Right.
Maybe things have happened in the past. So be it. Let's move forward and look tomorrow and solve the problem.
Okay, thank you, Don.
Councillor Fellner.
Yeah, Don, the other thing to keep in mind too is the thing that impacts noise and generators is the size. If the generator's missized, or if it's trying to do too much work, then it's a lot noisier than if it's properly sized. So
yeah, the spec sheet that I included in the report is for, I believe, between 16 and 22 kilowatts. You can get bigger units than that, but typically the average is probably between 16 and 22. And then they have Generacs down in a lower kilowatts between 10 and 16. The difference from Generac, their published spec, the difference is in the high 50s to the high 60s. So, and they also have a spec too on startup. It's not as high in decibels as it is once it goes under load. So if it's sitting there idling and there's no power being drawn, like say on a test day, you're running in the high 50s for even a 22 kilowatt. Once it goes under load, at 23 feet, the EPA number they're working from is 67 decibels. So it's a range of 10 between startup and actually operation. And the smaller units are a little quieter, but not that much.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, and they're more of a residential unit. They're not
Yes.
really a small commercial unit. Some of the small commercial units are pretty silent, you know.
Yeah.
So, okay.
Okay, I have a motion here, that following Don Hood's recommendation, that as per the recommendation of staff report DPS-BL-2020-004, attached to this resolution as Schedule A, Council of the Corporation of the Township of Seguin does hereby direct staff to prepare amendments for council consideration to the noise bylaw to define standby generators separate from construction equipment. Could I have a motion from Councillor Moffat?
I so move, Mayor.
Thank you. And seconder from Councillor Cole?
I'll second that.
Thanks. Is there any discussion? Okay, Councillor Osborne?
Yes, thank you, Mayor. So this review of the bylaw, this is the bylaw from 2010, Don?
Correct, yes.
Which would be further defined to take into account this situation.
Correct, yes. We would be adding a complete new section related to standby or permanent generators.
Okay, thank you.
And I understand, Don, that as well, you would be trying to get the correct readings on decibels and seeing if the neighbors can work together at the same time as we're doing bylaw work?
Correct, yes.
Okay. Okay. All in favor? Thank you. And that's carried. Thanks, Don, for the investigation. You've become a sleuth now.
For your next item, we have Mr. Chapnick and Mr. Madden, who is an agent.
But
so I will let them in.
Do they don't get to...
They're here to answer questions.
Okay.
And we have, I assume these other three phone numbers must be Chapnick. Probably related. So I will let them in, and if you could ask people to identify who's...
Okay.
See what we get here.
We're moving on to item D, and I just want to make sure that I know who's online and who's... I see Jason Chapnick. I see you. Can you hear us? Yep. And Chris Madden. See you there. And we've got some people on phone. Somebody's on a 496.
Feedback.
Stefan Sherback here from Planscape.
Okay, thank you, Stefan. And then we have somebody on 705-645.
Sorry, that's Stefan Sherback, Planscape.
Well, that's Stefan. So who's the 647? Is that you, Jason, as well? Jason Chapnick? Okay. I think so. He's motioning that it is. Okay. Steve Stone, you can take us through this. I do want to point out that in your addendum, you received copies of 12 letters that were in support of this Chapnick, one that chose not to give an opinion, and one request from Ms. Poirier asking for a deferral. So, Steve, can I hand it over to you, Director Stone?
Yes, Madam Mayor, thank you to the rest of the council. This one was before council during the summer, and in essence, what they're applying for is is an accessory building that's going to be located 100+ meters back from the shoreline in the midst of forest area, and it's roughly in the same location as an existing barn. The barn will come down. It's in disrepair. One of the things that was stated in the public meeting was concerns by neighbors of its proximity to the lake, the size of the structure, and so on. And staff asked the the applicant and agent to further look into opportunities to deal with the location of the accessory building. And what was discussed and viewed on site was moving the building away from the property line to account for its increase in height.
Steve, I'm just gonna stop you for a sec. Somebody's got a lot of background noise going on. Could everybody that's not, or make sure you're in a silent room? Hearing. People hearing these?
Yeah, we're all hearing that conversation going on.
4-7.
Who's
Very
on
distracting.
647-296-6649?
That's me, Clive Mail.
Okay, could you make sure you mute, Clive?
Okay, will do. Thank you.
Still there.
Just a sec. Is that better?
Now it
Okay,
is.
sorry,
Yep.
Steve, for the interruption, but go ahead.
Well, that concludes my presentation.
Didn't hear a word.
Yes, and thank you, Madam Mayor, to rest of council. So this application was presented to council in a public meeting earlier in the summer. And some of the issues that were raised about the accessory building was its proximity to the lot line, its overall height, and its use. So what staff did is we met the consultant and the applicant out on site and discussed the generalities of where the building was going to be located. Talked about moving it off the property line to account for its architectural feature, the height of the building. And so as a result, the applicant has increased the side yard setback for this structure. And it really is to accommodate the additional height requests that they're asking for. So I'll leave it up to the applicant and agent to sort of further discuss some of the supplementary information that they have included in their analysis. So thank you very much.
Okay, thank you, and I think the agent's report includes the 2 drone videos that show that the roof line is significantly below the tree line. And as Adam said, he didn't know how to measure how tall the trees were, but they're way taller than any building he's ever seen. And they are very mature trees. So for those of you that were able to download the drone video, they're big trees, and it's far back from water. So Mr. Chapnick or Stefan, do you want to speak at all to this?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. It's Stefan Scherback here from Plantscape. Perhaps I can just go first.
Okay.
And I apologize. I tried to get onto the Zoom meeting, and unfortunately I got locked out, so I had to call in here. But I just wanted to add to Mr. Stone's description. I did read his staff report, and from a planning perspective, I agree with his planning analysis and recommendation in front of you. Again, as Mr. Stone has alluded to, the structure itself has been moved significantly further back from the water. The owner has listened to the neighbors and the concerns from the neighbors, and hence the reason for moving the structure further back and away from the side lot line to address the comments that have been submitted as a result of this. Again, just to remind council that this is a accessory structure, and the main reason for this being in front of council today is for a height increase. And as Mr. Stone mentioned, the building itself has an architectural feature that allows additional light to go into the structure itself. It's there mainly for energy consumption, to reduce the extent of energy consumption for the building. And if you were to take that feature out of the design itself, the building would be about 6.7 meters, which is slightly taller than there's an existing barn that's situated on the property at 5.6 meters. So yes, there is an increase in height, and because of this architectural feature, we're taking it up higher as a result of the bylaw definition. Within my 3-page, 4-page report, there's a number of points, and I'm just going to summarize them briefly. The first part being the height. The second one is that the owner has agreed to paint the structure itself a dark color. The barn itself is dark, and it's essentially invisible from when you're reviewing the property or traveling on the property itself. I would have liked to have taken you through the drone videos, but I encourage council members to click the link on the report and take a look at it. You'll note that there's some time clips there that show the approximate height of the drone, and clearly the structure will be invisible from when viewing the property from the lake. In addition to moving it back, it's double the setback on average from the side lot line. Again, the owners have listened to the neighbors to address their concerns. And with respect to the final point, council may recall that the instructions from council were to work with the neighbors to find a compromise. And it's worth noting that after numerous attempts to have meetings with the neighbors, both from a personal end, from the owner's perspective, and from a planner to planner end, we did submit a lot of these revisions back and forth, and we have not heard anything back from the neighbors with the exception of just a few questions. So there was a significant attempt, and this was in front of council, as Mr. Stone mentioned, back in the summer. We're now into November, and again, that's because of repeated attempts to try and get in touch with the neighbor. So again, just in conclusion, I fully support staff's recommendations and planning analysis, and I would respectfully request council to consider this application at tonight's meeting. Thank you.
Thank you. We have a question from Councillor Osborne.
Yes, Mayor, thank you. Just to, for the benefit of the rest of council, Mayor McDermott and I had a Zoom meeting with Jason and Chris Madden a few days back, and at that point, there was relatively no support from the neighbors, and we tried to indicate the importance of that. It looks as though there's overwhelming support in this, that there's no complaints from other neighbors other than the immediate neighbor 2 lots over, Nullmeyer. And in speaking with the owner, Mr. Chapnick, this clerestory portion of the building is basically an adornment, and it lets light into the top of the building. It's not visible above the tree line. So as a constituent within my ward, and having heard the arguments from others, I don't have any problem with this. I think it's going to be responsible. The setbacks are good, and I don't see a problem with moving forward. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Osborne. Okay, I have a motion to read to you that as per the authority granted under Section 34, bracket 17 of the Planning Act, RSO 1990, Chapter P13, as amended, the Council of the Corporation of the Township of Seguin has determined that the changes proposed bylaw number 2020-111 for rezoning application number R 2020-0007-H for Chapnick, as indicated, does not require further notice to be provided. Could I have a motion from Councillor Finson?
I so move.
Thank you. And seconded by Councillor Moffat?
I'll second that, Mayor.
All in favor? Opposed? Councillor Feller, you're speaking, but we can't hear you.
Your lips are moving.
Sorry about that. You sort of lost me here. I sort of had my hand up and
Sorry. Okay. There's two motions here. One is to say that the further notice is not required about the change to the bylaw. That's what we just read. The second one is the motion to approve the changes and the building. that correct, clerk?
That's essentially correct.
Yeah. So what we have in front of us right now is the motion to say no further consultation is needed. And I think can we have the show of hands again? I'm sorry, I didn't see your little blue hand, Councillor
Well,
Miller. So all in favor?
yeah, well, I did want to say something
Okay, go ahead.
as well. I mean, so I looked at the, I looked at the addendum as well, and I think there's a fair amount of support for this structure, obviously around the lake, but there still is some people that don't support it, and there's a few people that, you know, think perhaps, you know, we should defer this, you know, until there's a chance to get some total agreement. Seems to be the neighbors in the closest proximity that have difficulty, and I don't know what the difficulty was to getting the two sides together. Shouldn't be a big issue. I think it's a great building myself, but I'm perhaps suggesting it might be prudent to defer this until people that say they haven't had a chance to confer with staff and the owner are given the chance, but not delay it unnecessarily either. You know, next meeting, whatever.
Thank you. I guess I look at page 161 of our council report with the list of dates in the second paragraph, that opportunities to reach out to the immediate neighbor are listed and all of the dates documented. And I also think that we have deferred it once, a couple times, I think. We asked the owner to go back. We asked the owner to go back to try again, and there are, 6 or 7 dates here that are documented by Stefan, and they moved the building significantly away from the lot line and back. So I personally think we should take a vote to see if further consultation is necessary. With 12 positive supporting letters, I've got to say, let's not hold up the construction any longer. So we've got a motion on the floor, moved by Gail and seconded by Daryl, to say that no further notice is required. That's the first part of it. Could I have a show of hands to support this? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So that's carried. Thank you. And now the second part of this is that bylaw number 2020-111, being a bylaw to amend Township of Seguin zoning bylaw number 2006-125, property roll number 4903-010-12200-0000, application number R 2020-0007-H for Chapnick at 12 Port Colborne Drive, is hereby deemed to have been read a first, second, and third time and passed by council. Could I have a motion by Councillor Cole?
Also move.
Thank you. And a seconder from Councillor Rosborne?
I second.
Any discussion? Councillor Feller, you still have your hand up. Do you have a
No, oh, sorry.
Anybody else? Okay, all in favor? 1, 2, 3, 4. Are you voting, Councillor Moffat? Councillor, no, you don't. You're abstaining? Okay, so we need to have a recorded vote then, I think. Because I didn't get a count, so I'll give it back to you.
Did you not get 4, Mayor?
No.
Oh, sorry.
I don't. Councillor Collins, did you vote? Okay, wait a minute. Councillor Finson was a yes. Councillor Coles was a yes. Councillor Osborne, yes. And I'm sorry, I can't see your hand, Councillor Collins. Are you a yay or a nay? Okay, then it's carried. Then it is carried. I'm sorry. You're in the corner of your screen, so it is
Yeah,
carried.
you're like offset there, man.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Mr. Chapnick, Mr. Madden, Stefan. Have fun in your sports course.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Thank you, Council.
Don't be afraid to invite us.
Okay, yeah. So give us how much, do I have to read all?
Yes, when you get to that one, and you should read that. Ask for the mover, seconder, then the staff report.
Okay.
So that you get.
Okay, so
Mail.
just a moment, we're letting Mr. Mail in and unmuting him, because the next E is regarding the blasting. And I have a very long motion here that I will read, and then we'll move it and second it, and then I'd like the staff report before we open discussion. Mr. Mail, can you hear us now?
Showing is still muted. All I can do is ask him to unmute.
And Mr. Mail, can you unmute your microphone now? We're on your agenda item. Clive Mail, can you hear me? And if you can you unmute in the bottom left-hand corner of your screen, the little red telephone, or the little red,
I think he's probably only on phone. I'm going to put him in the waiting room and bring him back in and see if that,
I can't unmute him, I can't unmute him.
no, because I think he's only on phone. No, he's really just here to answer questions, so.
So why don't I read the motion, because it's a biggie. Okay, Mr. Mile, we are going to move into your.
Can you hear me now?
Yes,
Yes,
we
sorry.
can. Thank you, perfect.
Yeah.
And you're here to answer questions. I will read the motion. We'll go through the mover and seconder and then have the staff report. So this is a motion that the Council of the Corporation of the Township of Seguin should hereby grant an exemption for 23 High Point Drive, property roll number 4903-010-09382-0000 for miles pursuant to section 5.1 of bylaw number 2008-105, being a bylaw to prohibit or regulate the placing or dumping or removal of fill in areas of the Township of Seguin, and pursuant to section 5.1 of bylaw number 2008-105, being a bylaw to prohibit or regulate blasting in areas of the Township of Seguin, subject to the following conditions as outlined in the staff report number DPS-PL 2020-113, attached as Schedule A to this resolution. The owner entering into a site plan control agreement that ensures the following actions are undertaken. Number one, a qualified civil engineer certifies that the ramp structure is constructed safely and anchored securely to the rock face. Number two, the ramp structure is fitted with a guardrail to prevent persons, etc., from falling off of it. Number three, all extraneous blast rock is removed from the shore road allowance. And number four, a landscape plan is implemented to restore the areas of the shore road allowance disturbed by the construction of the pathway for a small motorized vehicle in the boathouse. Could I have a motion from Councillor Fellner? Okay, thank you. And seconded by Councillor Collins.
Yes, I'll second that, Mayor. Thank you.
Okay. Now, before we vote on this, I'd like Director Stone to give us the staff report. Director Stone? There you are. Okay.
Thank you, Madam Mayor, to rest the council. So staff got involved in this, I guess, through general inspection of the construction that was happening on the property. There's a boathouse being constructed, as well as cottage dwelling. And one of the things that was observed was this cartway down to the boathouse. And so bylaw handed it off to planning staff for us to have further discussions with the property owner. And I attended the site and did talk to the applicant. And in essence, the discussion was that the fill bylaw and the blasting bylaw really don't envision this type of structural improvement to the shore road allowance. So as a result of that, we encouraged the applicant to apply for relief under Section 5 of the bylaws to allow for this structure to be finished and for him to use the cart path down to the boathouse. The conditions are there specifically to deal with the construction of the ramp. It's fabricated steel, and it was in an unfinished state when we attended the site. And we noticed that there was some blast rock that had made its way into the shore road allowance area. So it would be prudent to have that removed. And there was also a fire on site, as I understand it, maybe this past summer, and part of the vegetation along the shore road allowance was damaged as a result of that fire. So that is why we are asking for a rehabilitation plan for the landscaping in the vicinity of the cart path as well as the boathouse. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Are there any questions from council to Stephen or to Mr. Mayo? You can see this ramp on page 205 and 206 of your council package. Being no further questions, all in favor of adopting the staff report? Okay, thank you. That's carried. Be careful on your ramp, Mr. Mayo.
Okay, thank you, I will.
Thank you. Okay, so now we're moving into number 8, business. And the first one is Roma conference. Like everything else, we're going virtual this year. So I'd like to know, the dates are January 25th to 26th. I'm guessing it'll be handled much like AMO in that it's kind of a 4 or 5 hour virtual session each day. It's not a whole day, and that kind of works for AMO. So everybody's learning as we go. So I would like to ask who would like to attend the Roma virtual conference from your living room or home office. Councillor Moffat, I have to write these down. Anybody else?
What date, excuse me, Mayor, what date was it? January 25th, 26th. Yeah, I think I'd like to go.
Okay, Councillor Muller? You're not going anywhere.
Well, don't I know that? Yeah.
But you can attend. Anybody else? Okay, I will attend. So I will read the motion. That council of the corporation of the Township of Seguin does hereby authorize the following members of council to be registered for the 2021 Rural Ontario Municipal Association Roma virtual conference being held January 25th and 26th, 2021. Could I have a motion from Councillor Moffat?
I so move, Mayor.
Okay, and a seconder from Councillor Coles?
I'll second that.
All in favor?
Mayor, I was just wondering, sorry, Mayor, is any staff attending?
That's a separate budget and a separate item.
Okay.
We don't approve that. This is only for council. So yes, I expect there will be staff attending, but that's for staff to decide.
Thank you.
Now you've got one for me for Good Roads.
There's nothing known about Good Roads except the date.
Oh.
Council has to have this on, but it's too early. So there's information on the date to set aside.
Okay, so you've got the date if you want to mark the good roads on your personal calendar, but we don't yet have registration information. So the good roads virtual conference will come back at a later date, correct?
Yes.
Once we know how to register. So start marking your calendars up. Okay, item 8C. I think you, clerk, are going to speak to the request for a snow blower from the Foley Agricultural people, or the Foley Rec Committee.
I can give you a bit of information on what took place at the committee meeting, and then I expect maybe council will direct it back to staff to review it and report back. Dominique maybe on the facilities and Dawn on the fire hall.
Yeah.
But basically there was a Foley Recreation Committee meeting, and the chair of the committee put forward the motion, and we copied the motion for you, and his background information into it, basically requesting that the township purchase a snow blower, not out of the recreation budget, out of the regular township budget, and that volunteers would then utilize the snow blower. That's the extent of the background.
Okay, and you were at that meeting when it got discussed. Dawn, do you have anything to add about this request? I know you were concerned that there was a little bit of, might be misinformation about space in fire halls and things.
Yes, Mayor, to the rest of council. There is as indicated in the report, I believe, there is a small blower there now. There was a personal blower with a motor that could attach to an ATV. It is still there. I think a report said that there wasn't sufficient room in the fire hall. There is sufficient room in the fire hall. That should not be an issue if that direction was chosen to go. And it is a rink that relies totally on volunteers. And I know it's been harder and harder with our winters the way it's going. You get great ice and it lasts for 24 hours and then it's gone. So the blower that was there has been used. It's 10 years old. Apparently it isn't sufficient any longer. So again, I think it's just important to make sure the information given to council is accurate, and it, for the most part, is, other than there is room for storage if we chose to go that option.
Councillor Moffat, you have a question?
Not a question so much as a comment. Obviously, I sit on this committee. I wasn't able to attend the meeting due to a conflict of another meeting that evening. But this is a rink, and I agree with Dawn. Unfortunately, the weather may not be conducive, but this is certainly a community rink that's run by a bunch of dedicated volunteers. And I think, we saw this over the summer also when we've gone through and put portable washrooms in order to make it easier for people. And I think this is certainly a small cost associated with doing something for the community in the area. That there's no other rink you can go into town or the arena, but just to just go and play at any time, you're able to get on the rink. And we have the firefighters that are dedicated and willing to help out. So I think I'm hopeful staff would come back and with the right information, and we can move forward. As we saw, we do have a surplus projected. I can't imagine this is going to use up too much of costs associated with it, but this is certainly an opportunity to help out everyone in the area. Thank you.
Thank you.
I would just like to add that when we're relying on volunteers, I think the least we can do is give them good equipment to use. And I would encourage, if we're going to go this route, that we get the largest of the possible snow blowers that's possible, not the small end. Just I clear my rink on the ice every year, and I know the size of your snow blower makes a huge difference. So, and especially when it's volunteer time. So I think it's important.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Osborne.
Thank you, Mayor. Don, is there any problem with access for volunteers to the fire hall to go and obtain the blower off hours?
The volunteers, councillor, are firefighters.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so basically, it's not just a public volunteer offering their services. There may be some there to help, but it's always done under the direction of the firefighter.
Great, thanks.
Councillor Fellner.
Oh, okay, I'd like Bill's first. So Don, what do you suggest? Are we suggesting buying a walk behind blower, or are we talking about buying an ATV to power this bigger blower? What would be the best?
We're talking about referring it back to staff to give us the specifics. We're not deciding anything tonight.
Well, then I got to voice the same concern as Al. Volunteers, the bigger the better, and perhaps with an ATV, there's maybe a use there as well. So I'm all for this.
Okay, Councillor Vincent.
I would just like to say the same, that it's a great idea, and whatever works for the volunteers best and can be stored properly, according to Dawn, I think would be a good option. Something that can be stored properly and used by the volunteers, I think it's a great idea.
Okay, so do I need a motion or anything, or just send it back?
That's just direction.
Okay, direction to staff to come back with a recommendation. I think you hear that all of your councillors think it's probably strategic to keep as many open rinks going in this part of the world as we possibly can, and we ought to facilitate it. So does it go to I guess it goes partly to Dawn and partly to Dominique. So if you could come back with a recommendation and the budget implications, that would be great. Thank you. Okay, we have from Brian Sturgeon. What is the action on that?
There's really no action, but I will give you an update from staff. You might recall previously there were concerns with signage.
Yeah, okay, why don't you give us the update?
So the council discussed previously 3 locations with concerned signage, basically all on Highway 141. At the corner of 141 and Sandy Plains Road. The former what was Seasons on Muskoka and is now Rossville Landing Development down on 141 near Meter Road and in the village of Rossville. So the update we can give you, they are all 3 on Highway 141 right away, so they fall under MTO and Seguin jurisdiction. So the MTO has sent a letter to the Rossville Landing Development owner advising that their sign is illegal and to either make the application to make it legal or to remove it. The MTO has written again to the owner of the property at Sandy Plains Road as well as the business owners of the signs, and we're waiting for information on that, and we haven't heard anything from the MTO on the ones in Rossville yet.
Okay. So this letter has initiated staff rattling the cage at MTO, basically.
The council did that at a previous meeting, but we thought because the letter came, we'd give you the update on where we're at.
Okay. Thank you. So I think that's kind of for information. It's MTO responsibility, but we do have a sign bylaw that discourages the proliferation of signs. Councillor Vincent.
I would be happy to contact Mr. Sturgeon and give him an update because it was him that initiated me initiating at the last meeting. So I would be happy to give him a call and update him on what's happening with the signs.
Okay, that would be great. You can get the exact details from Craig.
I will.
Okay, great. Thank you, Councillor Vincent. Councillor Osborne.
Thank you, Mayor. Craig, I believe the Seasons of Muskoka, or whatever it was called, Rossville Landing, that property was owned by Mr. Field. He assumed it from the Bert and his wife, and he sold the 4 lots. He kept one, sold one on the lakefront, sold 2 back lots on 141. So I think he would be the contact and responsible for removing that sign because that whole development is defunct. So I just, maybe if you pass on his name and contacts to MTO, it might facilitate things.
Currently, the MTO has an owner name and they have sent letters to that person, so that's the person they're dealing with right now.
Okay.
It's not the name you mentioned, but it must be an owner because
it may be one of the owners that bought the lots fronting 141. That sign is, yeah. Okay, thanks.
Great, thank you. Okay, thank you, Councillor Vincent, for following up. So we move on to AE, which is the motion by myself to reconsider the August decision. So I will read this motion, and there is no discussion on this topic. The only thing it will be is a vote. If the vote passes to reconsider, all the documentation will become public and part of the November 16th meeting, but there's no discussion tonight. So the motion is that the Council of the Corporation of the Township of Seguin does hereby reconsider Township of Seguin Council Resolution 2020-346, passed on August 24th, 2020, granting an exemption for 202 Blue Lake Road, property roll number 4903-030-02706-0000 for DAG, to bylaw number 2008-105, being a bylaw to prohibit or regulate the placing or dumping or removal of fill in the areas of the Township of Seguin, as new information has been provided that was incorrectly addressed in previous emails. And I will, can I move it?
Yes, there's one.
Yeah, okay. So I'm moving it. Could I have a seconder for this? Councillor Osborne, okay. Is there no discussion? All in favor of reconsideration?
Mayor?
Could I have?
Mayor?
Sorry,
Yes.
I missed the blue hand. Sorry, Councillor Osborne. Sorry, go ahead.
I'd like to make a preliminary comment as seconder to the motion and the reasons why. I'd just like to provide a couple of points. As the mayor stated, new information has been received. When we approved the exemption, discussion was pretty much centered around option A, the Causeway Trail, and option B, an elevated boardwalk, was dismissed without any pertinent research. I attended the site yesterday and found the pictures and drawings received by council very much underestimated the actual situation on the ground and did not highlight the massive wetland behind the existing causeway.
Councillor Osborne, I'm sorry, the clerk is saying that we cannot have any discussion about this at this point.
Okay.
Okay, I understand, and I believe if there's a lesson learned here, it's a lesson learned for all of council. We didn't do our full due diligence on the options.
I would like to suggest, though, Mayor, in finishing, that I think we owe it to the citizens of Otter Lake to reconsider the motion you proposed. Thank you.
Thank you. I think many of us got many emails.
Oh, a lot.
So I'm going to call a vote on this. All in favor of reconsidering? Could I have a show of hands? I see 1, 2, 3, and I will be 4. So the motion is defeated because we need 2/3 of council, correct? We need 5 votes.
Correct.
So it is a defeated motion. It will not come back to council. I do appreciate all of the citizens that have spoken up, and there is a lesson learned for all of us here. Before we make an environmentally sensitive decision, let's completely understand everything going forward. Councillor Coles, do you have your hand? I'm sorry. Councillor Coles.
I just want to make one comment, and that is that not all the emails were negative.
I saw that, and I was copied on some of them. Yeah.
Well, isn't that just special?
It's very special, Rod.
Unbelievable.
I think this whole discussion is not about centering out one councillor over another. It is making a decision as best we can, and we have learned from this one. Okay. We're moving on to 9 bylaws. This is another mouthful for me. And this regards to parking and I think basically safety again. So I will, the motion is that bylaw number 2020.
Can you let him out or take him out or something? He's down here crying.
Oh, Gail, we can cry. The dog?
Sorry.
Sorry.
Oh, the poor
Sorry,
dog.
I forgot.
The poor dog.
Welcome to Zoom in 2020.
Just watch what you do.
Okay, I will read the bylaw now, and I wasn't crying. That bylaw number 2020-112, being a bylaw to regulate traffic and to govern and control the parking of vehicles in the Township of Seguin on Township of Seguin-owned property and on designated fire routes, and to repeal bylaw numbers 2005-164, 2006-112, 2009-081, 2010-081, 2012-005, 2012-087, 2015-056, and 2015-066, and all other bylaws and resolutions or portions of bylaws and resolutions contrary hereto or inconsistent with is hereby deemed to have been read a first, second, and third time and passed by council. Could I have a motion from Councillor Finson?
I so move.
Thank you. And seconded by Councillor Collins?
Yes, Mayor, I'll second that.
Thank you. And Peter, could you take us through a little bit of this recommendation?
Primarily, this is updating the bylaw regarding signage and traffic management in the township. The main reasons for this update were two three-way crossings that we're introducing in the township, one on Star Lake and Turtle, and the other one at Blackwater Road and Bradley. And yes, and then a speed limit change on James Bay Junction Road for the full length of it of 40 kilometers an hour for the public.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Coles, you still have your hand up. Is that?
Sorry,
related to
no.
Okay. Are there any questions for Peter?
Oh, come on.
I see no questions. So once again, it's safety issues. I understand that as we pave a road, people go faster, and then we have to drop the speed limit. So
Yep.
That's where we're at. All in favor? Okay, that's carried. Oh, and this is our bell tower. This is a motion that bylaw number 2020-113, being a bylaw to authorize the execution of a license agreement between Bell Mobility, Inc. and the Corporation of the Township of Seguin related to the use of part of the road allowance between the geographic townships of Christie and Humphrey, now the Township of Seguin, being the lands described in PIN 52192-0896 bracket LT for electrical services for telecommunications infrastructure is hereby deemed to have been read a first, second, and third time and passed by council. Could I have a motion from Councillor Osborne?
So moved.
Thank you. And a seconder from Councillor Fellner?
Yeah, seconded.
Is there any discussion? Okay, all in favor? Thank you, and that is carried. Okay, over to maybe her final report as interim CAO.
Definitely her final report as interim CAO. So I attended the Wellness Center Pool Committee on October 22nd. There was an endorsement by the mayors and the committee approving the YMCA site for the facility, recommending option A for the budget and design purposes. Approval of the cost-sharing formula with Seguin being allocated 22.5%, both capital and operating costs. Approving establishing a joint municipal service board to oversee design, construction, maintenance, and operations of the facilities, and direction to start negotiations with the YMCA for securing the site and operating the facility. There will be a formal presentation by Donald Sanderson to each of the councils. That will be coming in the next few months for formal acceptance and approval by council. So, more virtual forums and webinars. This time the Northern Treasurers Forum and the Muskoka Watershed Council. Budget process is continuing, and we have received an interim order from LPAT regarding the GANS appeal of the Muskoka Lakes Marine project, essentially granting party status to the marina, granting participant status to one of the neighbors, allowing some additional documentation to be submitted, and allowing the parties to continue some offline settlement discussions. So that continues on. And that is my last CAO report. Michelle, you've done an outstanding job of keeping the ship going in a professional and I think really great way. It's been outstanding. You were handed a big ball of wax at a very tough time. And with COVID in the middle of it, you've held staff hands when you needed to. You've made some tough decisions. And I just want to say formally, thank you very, very much. It's been great. Thank you. Now, I'm assuming if we push CAO on an email address, it goes to Mr. Ingwood. It will. Okay.
He
Okay.
disappeared in a hurry.
Yes. Councillor Moffat, you have a question?
I do, but I would also echo your positive comments. And the one thing that I would say was it was great having Michelle to come out to residences on a Friday afternoon to talk shop with them. So we only got to do a few, but they were some fun ones anyways. So thank you very much, Michelle. I just want to go back to the pool, and I will follow this up in my own council report. With regards to the cost sharing formula, I may have missed it. Is it both for the capital as well as the operating?
That's correct.
Okay, thank you. I will, that's great.
You may recall that at one point we were at 18.9 or something. What happened is the First Nations are out, so everybody had to bump up.
Well, there, get out.
Well, at this point, they won't contribute anything. I'm still hopeful that they will have, and they may come back, and the cost sharing may go down, but at this point, they won't put their name on the line for any dollars.
Really?
That's where we're at. But I think if you look at the pool report, which is in the correspondence, it's very, very comprehensive, and it was a good meeting. And the same presentation will be made to each council by Donald Sanderson, who's the chair of the committee. And we are still waiting for the go-ahead on the major fundraising chunk. So that's a big step. Okay, who started last time? Was it you, Daryl? No. So you got to go first this time as council report.
Thank you. I just want to, I want to, before I get into my own report, I do want to go back to the pool. I will be honest, I've gotten partway through the video and I've gotten partway through the reading of all the materials. But I am concerned with regards to some of the comments on in our council package. You know, there was some, and I don't know where this goes, Mayor, and maybe I'm looking to you. There was a number of suggestions. There was a number of issues like we go and put this space in for rental, and then, you know, now we don't have Seguin space being rented. We originally wanted just a pool, and now we've gone from like a 22,000 square foot building to a 50,000 square foot building. And, you know, the idea of putting forward, if you want to be a member, let's do a membership drive and let's get people committed and dollars on the table before we commit as a whole. I think so. I'm wondering who is going through all of these. I'm going to say 25 pages. Some of them are just, yeah, that's great. Okay, let's move on from them. But there's a lot of comments in there that I think need to be addressed. And I personally don't think that we've done enough due diligence on this, in that I think we've blown this thing up to more than what it needs to be. And we have, all of a sudden there will be a huge, like, operating costs are going to be huge post, once this thing gets going. And the municipalities, like, being on the hook for almost 23% of the costs. I think, so, if I read correctly, I think it's somewhere north of $600,000 for a deficit that we're going to. Am I incorrect on that?
Do you want to talk to it, Michelle?
I believe the updated operating costs for option A were, and I don't have the exact numbers here in front of me, but it was around $350,000 a year was the net.
Deficit.
And option B was 400 and some odd thousand a year. So that's the number that you would apply the 22.5% to.
So we're looking at $100,000 a year, which we know is a 1 percentage point of our tax rate, or they're all approximately that. So that's and there was comments from Whitestone and Carling. Whitestone, we're too far away, and it almost seems like they may, I don't know, opt out, and all of a sudden our 22.5 becomes 30% by just the shuffling of the deck. So I just want to make sure that as we walk through this, the comments and someone's addressing them, and we need to do, as you just talked about, making sure that we do proper due diligence here. I think this is a much larger proper due diligence that needs to get done before we make a commitment, collectively as a township as well as a group.
Yeah, I think some of the comments you're referring to are in the public consultation comments.
Yep.
And they were evaluated, rated, and scored by the Citizens Advisory Committee. So I don't know exactly their process, but I wasn't part of that committee. They scored them. They said which ones we're going to pay attention to, which ones have more than one person or one group. So that's how the information in that questionnaire then went to the steering committee, which is the CAOs, and then to the engineers and architects. So, Councillor Collins, I can see you have your hand up. This isn't really a discussion about the pool. This is Councillor Moffat's report, and I hear you. And I think the place for those discussions are when you see the full presentation at council. And again, I'm not disowning it, but the Citizens Advisory Committee was charged with saying what we need and what we want in the building. So that's where it's at.
Yeah.
So Councillor Collins, we'll get to you after Councillor Moffat does his report.
No, that's good.
Sorry, it was more or less, I hope the balance of council has had an opportunity, to read and hear. So with respect to my last couple of weeks, a number of residents' discussions, excluding the one that we talked about tonight. There's been a number of them. West Parry Sound District Museum, we had our board meeting. We have a potential budget coming forward of about a $40,000 deficit. Most of our costs are related to salary, so we're still working through that as a board. So that's still, to come, but that's kind of where we're in the direction that we're trying to address. Attended the Muskoka Watershed Council meeting, not the main one, but the working group one. And also attended the Georgian Bay Forever on water levels a couple of weeks ago. And that was really, I wasn't able to attend all of it, but they had an amazing amount of scientists, professionals, water experts. I found some of the information to be a repeat, which was disappointing in that not as much coordination, but certainly the breadth of talent that was on the call was pretty phenomenal. So that is it for my report. Thank you, Mayor.
Okay, Councillor Coles.
Thanks, Mayor. Attended a Belvedere Heights full board meeting last week, and I've reported on this pretty much every time, but the only change, I think, is that we're aggressively now working on the management structure between the West Parry Sound District Health Center and Belvedere, which hopefully progresses well into the next year, which going forward should save us enough money to help out with the pool.
Perfect.
That's what we're hoping. Other than that, I've had, as you all know, considerable number of meetings with constituents, and we won't drag that one out. That's it.
Councillor Osborne.
Thank you, Mayor. I too attended the pool meeting, the Zoom, and I have to agree with Councillor Moffat. Based on the wants and the needs of the people, this thing has really ballooned. And in fact, there was some comments made at that meeting that maybe this whole structure was a little bit too enormous and maybe it should be peeled back down. There was comments made by certain municipalities. Two issues here. There was discussion about contingency, what ifs. And that's what I wanted to highlight. The what if, it looked like 70% funding was like the line in the sand. And if funding was somewhat under 70%, what would happen? So that what if was put out there. And of course, that's an unknown at this point. But it could be, if funding is not adequate, this project would have to be scaled down to be commensurate with whatever funding was available. And, you know, and the fact this thing started as a pool and then it became a cultural center, you know, because of our indigenous people, and now they're not participating. So I'm thinking maybe they got to tighten up the mandate on this project to keep it on track, keep it within the financial limitations, because as Councillor Moffat indicated, some of the municipalities are getting a little bit edgy on this thing. And I would like to see it go ahead. The one final comment I have is, if there was public consultation and feedback from the public on what they want, was there also feedback to the committee as to how many would purchase memberships, pay to go, actually use? And I haven't seen any numbers in terms of total number of people that would actually use the facility and were prepared to pay to use the facility. Is that available? Because it may have been discussed at a different meeting.
It wasn't discussed there, but if you go, to page, it's somewhere between page 290 and 368, that question was in the survey. I can't tell you exactly where the number of people is, but in the raw data, it's there somewhere.
Okay, it talked about what is your age? Is that the area?
Yeah, that's the area. Would you join? Would you buy a family membership? Would you be an occasional swimmer?
Okay, so there are some hard numbers in there. Do you know any off the top what the participation was off the top in terms of the number of people that would just basically use it? Any idea?
I don't, but I recall that the Y said we would need 1,600 members.
Or better.
To make the numbers of the deficit.
Okay, thank you. And the only other thing I have to report is I've had no other committee meetings, but it's been a full-time job just responding to emails this weekend on the issue we discussed. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Fellner.
Thank you, Mayor. The last 2 weeks, I had a museum meeting. I don't think we're going to have another one this year. I don't think there really wasn't much point because the museums have been closed and we really don't know when we can get it open. I haven't had anything else. I've got sort of the first half of the month is a busy month for my meetings, so that's about it.
Nothing.
Councillor Collins.
Yeah, no, I have nothing to report at this time, Mayor. Thank you.
Councillor Vincent.
I have had no committee meetings in the last week. I had some discussions with staff and lots of discussions with my constituents, as everybody else has, just on several matters. A couple of them been solved, and so it's been busy with constituents, but not with meetings, and that's all. Thank you.
And I have driven through Rosso twice and found OPP cars parked behind the evergreens, catching the speeders.
Good.
And they're hiding well. I almost got. I went, whoops,
thank you,
blocking
Peter.
my car there. So they are following up on our, what they call them? Speed snoops, or whatever the LPP calls them. So they have been in Rosso, and they hide well behind the evergreen trees. So beware.
Wouldn't that be embarrassing?
Yep, they are acting on our data, so that's a good sign. October 21st, I attended the second RAMP meeting, and for those of you that don't know it, it's made up of a bunch of the mayors and some of the CAOs from Muskoka, Seguin, and East Perry Sound, and RAMP stands for Residents Against Muskoka Poverty. So they're trying to tackle the whole issue of food security and poverty in our neighborhoods. We've heard a couple case studies that are pretty compelling. October 22nd was the Wellness Center update meeting, and then October 24th was the West Perry Sound Health Center Foundation autumn draw, and one lucky woman actually won $12,000. It was a 50-50 draw instead of the golf tournament. And that's all I had, but a lot of emails. Okay. I have a motion that the Council of the Corporation of the Township of Seguin does hereby receive the board and committee agendas and minutes and the correspondence as presented on the agenda and the addendum for the November 2nd, 2020 meeting of council. Could I have a motion from Councillor Collins?
Yes, I so move, Mayor.
And Councillor Vincent, seconded?
I second that.
All in favor? Thank you. Now we going to close? Okay, and this is a motion that the Council of the Corporation of the Township of Seguin does hereby proceed to a closed meeting at 6:42 p.m. in order to address matters pertaining to a proposed pending acquisition or disposition of land by the municipality or local board, and a request to purchase those municipally owned lands, and litigation or potential litigation, including matters before administrative tribunals affecting the municipality or local board, and open building permits. Could I have a motion from Councillor Moffat?
I so move, Mayor.
Thank you. And seconded by Councillor Cole.
I'll second that.
All in favor of going into closed? Okay, thank you. Now it takes us a moment to do our technical, kick everybody else out.